So what is the most important thing in real estate? Well, this is kind of a two-part answer, which I'm going to show you here, and I'm going to give you a real-life example. Let's head over to a place right now. Alright, so we are on our way, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory as to the place that I'm going to show you. So this place was just a normal house. It got knocked down and rebuilt completely and beautiful, and it was one of those properties which the developer was going to, knock down the place, make it a beautiful home, and resell it for millions and millions of dollars. It's in a very, very wealthy neighborhood. Like I think I've mentioned before, the community that I live in has an average home price of about $1.2 million. And this place is just on the other side of town, where the average home price is closer to $2 million. It's one of the highest priced real estate markets in the world right now. But yeah, this place was a beautiful home. It got completely built and put on the market in like 2013, 2014. Obviously beautiful. I'm probably going to be showing you a video right now. And they priced it initially at like $6 million, which was, that was completely reasonable. And actually this house is my mom's dream home. Like if she could build a house, it would look exactly like this. It's a beautiful home. It's a lot bigger than it looks. And yeah, it's just a great place. So I checked in about a year later, and it had its price reduced by about $1.2 million over the course of that year. Obviously, this place wasn't selling. So I checked in about a year later. It was still on the market, but they increased the price because it was a super hot real estate market. And then I checked in about 6 months after that, still on the market. And so eventually one day, I decided to actually go to the house and see if I could figure out why the place wasn't selling. Because based on the neighborhood, the price, the new construction, the size of the house, it was priced pretty well based on all of those things. I mean, there's homes on that street that sold for $20 million, so that's just kind of some perspective for you guys. All right, so we are about to pull up to this beautiful house here. And there it is. Very nice, beautiful home. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And then here is where I realized why it isn't selling. We're going to keep moving forward. Right next door is a public school. So what does this tell you, and what is the most important thing in real estate? Obviously, it's location. That house had everything you could want in a house. But no multi-millionaire wants to buy a place just to have little kids screaming in their backyard from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock every single day. And remember, this was my mom's dream house. And so when I told her that it was next to a public school, what do you think she said? She said, "Really? Oh, that sucks. Oh man, I wouldn't want to live there. I mean, there'd be kids screaming all the time. There'd be tons of traffic in the morning. Your driveway would be packed right in front of your house every day." So that house is what we call in a very good macro location. It's in a very wealthy neighborhood in one of the wealthiest cities on earth. But it's micro location in terms of, what's immediately surrounding the area. That is absolutely terrible, because no one wants to live next to a public school unless maybe you have kids that are really young and you just want to be able to walk 20 steps to their school. But I'm just saying the average extremely wealthy person that would be able to buy that place doesn't want to live next to a public school. So the developer of that place built a very, very beautiful home. It's just unfortunately they underestimated how much real estate buyers would devalue the place based on the fact that it was right next to a public school, which would be just very loud and noisy, and no one wants to live next to a public school. All right, I think that we're gonna pull up here and I'll continue this conversation. All right. So on the topic of real estate location, most people might notice that the most expensive homes in most areas are the ones that are closer to the water, like this. This is Lake Ontario. It's not exactly the cleanest water, but still, it's the lakefront. And all of these homes here are worth millions upon millions of dollars. And the reason why those homes are expensive is actually different than it was about 300 or 400 years ago. So they're expensive now because people like the view, people like the breeze, people, like to go swimming, people like to just be isolated. They don't want a lot of neighbors. There's nothing obstructing their view of nature. But something that you also may have noticed is that a lot of the homes closer to fresh water sources are actually the oldest homes and were the first communities built in your city. And especially if you live in like an older community that's a few hundred years old, you'll probably see that trend as well. But you know, why is that? Why are all the old homes on the water and why are they so expensive? Well, it's actually just kind of a simple answer, which I thought was interesting that I would share with you guys, is that, well, hundreds of years ago, you just didn't have water running from your tap, and you had to actually go to a fresh water source, collect the water, and then bring it back to your house. So people wanted to live closer to the water because it provided easier access to, you know, live and actually have water. So that's something interesting that I thought you guys would like. It's, yeah, people wanted to live closer to the water just because they had easy access to water. So I was gonna wrap that video up right there and just be like, location is the only thing that matters. By the way, we're at the office. It's kind of being renovated and transitioned from like a studio into my office. So we should check in that. But there's one more thing I wanted to mention with real estate. Location, yes, that is the most vital thing. You don't want to be next to a public school. But, oh, there used to be a wall here. Now it's gone. I haven't been in here since my surgery. Kind of cool, eh? Anyways, the other thing I wanted to mention was the other most important thing, apart from location in my mind, is, ooh, I'm going to turn the lights on in here. Ooh, it's dim. It's dim. There we go. Is price. So for example, that, sorry, it's currently being painted in here. That home, which originally was on the market for like $6 million and then got relisted for 4.8 or whatever, then went back to 6 million. If that place was on the market for $2 million, $3 million, maybe someone who wasn't as wealthy would have probably swooped it up, or maybe some wealthy person would have swooped it up because that's a good deal. They could have put up with the whiny brats screaming from 9 to 4 o'clock every day if it were to save them a couple $1 million, $3 million. But the real estate agent didn't do that, and the developer didn't even think of that maybe they should price the property at like $4 million or $4.2 million. Now saying that, like $6 million is probably the minimum that the developer needed to make a decent profit. They probably would have made like $1 million on that property if they would have sold it for $6 million. Probably about, maybe even $2 million, to be honest. Maybe more than that. I don't even know. I think that maybe the developer didn't kind of realize that how much that public school right next to this beautiful mansion, modern, I don't know, freaking palace. They didn't think that it would take away that much value. So here's the other thing I kind of want to mention was that there are certain places where no matter how low you put the price, people aren't going to want to buy it. So that place, someone would have bought it if it was $1 million or $2 million. Someone would have bought it within the first week because that would have been a good deal. People would have put up with the kids. But then there's this good example of, oh, it's getting dark in here. There's the good example of Detroit, and there are homes for sale, like homes that are, sure, they're probably a little bit dumpy, but some of them are falling over, some of them are just kind of like normal crappy houses. They're on the market for $1, and no one will buy them for a few reasons. One, because they don't want to live in Detroit, it's a high crime rate area. And two, because a lot of the times those houses, they aren't really worth much, obviously, and you still have to pay property taxes on them. So for some of those places, you're going to have to pay a few $1,000s a year, or maybe $1,000 a year in property taxes. And when you think about that, if you were to buy that place for $1 and pay $1,000 in property tax, you're paying literally 1,000 times more in taxes than you would for the actual property itself. Now, it would be a good deal if all you had to do was just pay that $1 and just take a risk, and maybe it'll go up in value to $10,000 within the next 10 years. But that's generally not the case, and the taxes, obviously. So unless the place is going to appreciate $1,000 a year, you're going to lose money on it. So I think that's kind of going to wrap it up here. I'm still reworking this office. I actually just put this stuff in here. But to kind of summarize what we talked about today was two most important things in real estate are definitely location. That's number one. And number two is the price. And I've seen so many realtors and real estate agents make the mistake of overpricing or underpricing the property. Now, usually what happens, I'm going to tell you all what usually happens when you're going, when you're, let's just say you're trying to sell a place and you're going to try and partner with a real estate agent. Generally, you will overvalue your home, so you'll want to overprice it, and the real estate agent will undervalue the home because they just want to get it sold and make their commission. Now, that's generally if they're just a sleazeball agent, which is, to be honest, most of them that I've met, a lot of them are sleazeballs. And you'll want to overvalue your home just so that you can get the highest return on investment, make the most money. And yeah, obviously, as I said, the real estate agent will just want to get a deal done and move on. But still, sometimes just the agent will give bad advice and will severely underprice the home, or sometimes they overprice it. Sometimes they just overvalue the home. Maybe they, like as you saw, as I just showed, the person who listed that, the agent that listed that, agreed with the developer to sell it for $6 million, which was overvalued based on what was next door. So agents make a mistake on valuing the property. Owners make the mistake on valuing the property. So that's not like a third most important thing. That's just a mistake that people make with pricing a lot of the time that I've seen. So anyways, I think that's going to wrap up this video. Actually, I'll show you kind of the little bit of the office here. It's kind of, there's still some Buddhist stuff in here because this was kind of like a fitness studio / like peace place. So anyways, we got a nice office here. I'm still putting everything together. That's actually going to be some soundproof foam for the walls. This isn't going to be my studio actually. The studio, I'll give a tour of that another day. But yeah, this is kind of my office for now. It's just a small place. I can make some deals, stuff, and it all looks good. So anyways, we're going to wrap this up. I'll give you a tour another day. And I'd like to thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people. I'll see you guys next time.